Hey guys, so today I'm going to talk a little tiny bit on complimenting girls. And this can actually turn into an hour-long talk. And yeah, maybe even a 2-hour talk if I wanted it to. But we're going to keep it short. And the main thing I want to get across is that complimenting can be something that's depending on the situation. So this only goes for guys, because for girls you can pretty much compliment a guy in any situation and it usually will work, and I'll get more into that. But girls, just hold out for now. I'll talk about it after I talk about this. But for guys, I mean, there is a lot of debate on complimenting, believe it or not. Some people think you should never compliment a girl, and that's not true. Complimenting a girl can be a very great thing. She will just take it at face value and enjoy the compliment. And that's what most people would think if they do not overthink it. However, if you really want to get into it, it really depends on the situation. And I'm going to explain it. Bars and nightclubs and these sort of night events, parties, and so forth, girls will be complimented by an overabundance of guys. And therefore, your compliment will come across sleazy, it'll come across fake, it'll come across disingenuine. Is that the right term? Ingenuine, not genuine. And basically, if you do it in these sort of venues, just because of the environment, the definition of the environment, you're setting yourself up to be rejected, because this is what the environment entails. I mean, in these sort of environments, you are pretty much making yourself the typical average guy by opening the conversation with what the typical average guy will say, which is a compliment. And therefore, you are pretty much lumping yourself into a category and pretty much cutting off any chances. And especially in those scenes when it's an environment where you are encouraged to approach girls, and it's almost expected, and girls get approached dozens of times throughout the night. In these sort of situations, the competition is at a very high level, and so you want to stand out from the crowd, and you want to say something unique and apart from the typical guy from the start to catch your attention. Otherwise, she will reject you very quickly like the other guys. So in these sort of situations, this is where the whole idea of don't compliment a girl comes from. And on the other side of the spectrum, this is not always the case, okay? For me, I wouldn't say hate, but I don't like going to bars, nightclubs, parties, these sort of things. Why? Basically, maybe because I was never really invited to such places, and they seemed very, grungy, trashy, and so forth. And so, for me, the only times would be in the daytime. Maybe, I don't know, coffee shop, bookstore, library, and so forth. And as far as social events, daytime parties, events, and stuff like that. So as far as out in the open in some place like a coffee shop and bookstore, these things do not apply. Giving a girl a compliment is more than welcome. Pretty much everyone alive, 99% of people, we always can't forget that 1%. 99% of people will enjoy a compliment. However, again, they in certain situations will not enjoy a compliment, as I explained. But in these environments where in the daytime they are not usually getting compliments like every 5 seconds, that is when they will truly appreciate it and truly trust that you're being genuine. And so that's pretty much the big distinction I want to get across. The people who are constantly saying don't give compliments usually come from this sort of bar slash nightclub slash nightlife environment where girls are bombarded with compliments, and it comes across just too much, too disingenuine, and very sleazy. And girls, I don't blame you. Leave your comments on your perspective, but I believe that they are not trying to be mean. I mean, some girls are, but a lot of them are not trying to be mean. A lot go into the club just to have fun, to dance with their friends. And sure, there's some that go in to hook up and stuff, but some go into these events to dance with their friends, and they were not expecting, or they were not hoping, or even expecting that they would be bombarded by all these guys, coming up to them with the sleaziest, cheesiest compliment. And because of that, they naturally develop a sort of callous to it and a sort of shield to it. So they're naturally kind of mean to guys, and they just unconsciously sort of reject them. So sometimes you don't even get the chance to really display your true personality because you're being rejected by her sort of automatic robotic response before she even naturally consciously is aware of what's going on. And so you're in a bar sort of nightclub setting. It's a different sort of game versus many other different settings. Now, of course, daytime parties and daytime sort of social events again fall into a different sort of game as well, if you do want to call it a game. But that would be sort of more like nighttime events, but the environment, like, you always have to look at the environment and what it sort of entails. Bars and nightclubs sort of, by definition, tell you that the general atmosphere should be guys approaching girls constantly. And you have to look at this. And so for daytime social events, like daytime parties or like cocktail events and so forth, that doesn't really entail you or tell you that the general environment is to go up to a girl and give her a straight up compliment and then say, hey, can I get your number, and so forth. It is more of a social sort of talking sort of thing. So I would recommend just going up and approaching groups indirectly and just starting up conversation about stupid stuff. Like, that's all. I mean, it has to be unique. You have to set forth a unique personality. But again, I mean, it's what is expected. Most likely at shrimp cocktail events, which I don't think most of you will be going to a lot, you will be talking about, events that interest you. Probably some that show your personality and how interesting a character and how sophisticated you are, yada yada yada. And the point is, there's a fine line between being interesting and just sticking with the script. You always want to kind of stick out and be more interesting than a typical guy. But of course, you always want to try and stay within what the social environment entails. So, I mean, just think what your typical bar or event entails and sort of follow it. And another big lesson is it just shows you that a lot of guys, they think that people are either just good with girls or not good with girls, and there's nothing you can do with it. And that's not the case. And I've kind of learned that, and I've been reminded about that today. And that's not the case. There's a lot you can do personality-wise as well as physically that can tremendously improve your success with women. So it's not just something that's you just stick in the mud. But as always, I still have a lot to improve myself. I don't know. Give me advice and tips in the comments below. Anyhow, down to the girls. If you girls are still watching this video, girl viewers. So here's the thing: you are trying to approach a guy or something. should you give him a compliment? Here's the thing. As a girl, you almost never have to. And in fact, whether you're a guy or girl, a lot of times it's not socially really acceptable and will probably warrant a lot of high risk and possible high problems if you do. I mean, sometimes obviously high risk can be low risk in the fact that you think it's high risk, but you will never see the person again, so it really doesn't matter. But then there are those circumstances where in society there's like a social circle environment or fishbowl environment where if you screw up, you're going to see that person again and again and again, and that girl is going to tell, or that guy is going to tell all his friends, and then they will know, and then the rest of your year is ruined. So again, you have to have some social intelligence. Don't give straight up compliments like you would at a nightclub or bar, like, wow, you are very sexy, or something like that, which by the way never works anyways. Even in the daytime. By the way, you should typically give a nice, humbling sort of compliment, not a sort of sleazy compliment like that. But the point is, if you give a compliment like you look very nice or something like that, the thing is, if you do that in the wrong sort of social environment, it's bad. You shouldn't do it. And the biggest I can think of is something where like it's a very close-knit, small college or high school or middle school, and if you just go randomly up to them and give them a compliment and then right after ask for their number, that's very much lacking in social intelligence, and you're going to screw up your year possibly. But again, so the point is you have to exercise some sort of social intelligence. And so for girls, you almost never really have to give the compliment. For nightclubs, bars, and so forth, the general vibe is that guys are looking to approach you. That's pretty much the whole stigma behind the bar. It's a vibe that's ingrained in culture. So you pretty much just have to show up if you're a really, really hot girl, and nature will do its rest. If you're not that attractive, then you will have to use some sort of social game, spit some game, okay? And that you don't really have to spit game. You just have to really, make it a way to show yourself to many types of guys, because those types of venues are so crowded that a lot of guys may be very tunnel visioned, and they might really want to talk to you, but it's so crowded and blustering that they might not see you. I mean, it happens quite a lot. A lot of people go through this sort of tunnel vision where they only see like a couple girls, and they're just so flustered, and maybe they missed the girl that could have been their dream girl. But what you want to do is just you don't have to compliment them. If you want to, go ahead, make it any sort of compliment. You never really have to go full throttle. A simple thing as like you have a nice tie and then touching their tie, that is enough, because guys are so freaking they're slobs, okay? Go ahead and go full throttle if you want, but that might just come across too sleazy for the guy. I mean, sometimes the guys have standards too. Sometimes they don't, but something tasteful will usually be enough. And sometimes you just have to say something to the guy, and that will be enough of a cue. However, like I always say, there's always going to be people who are shy, even in these events. There's going to be shy guys at these events. And so, again, I'm still talking about just nightclub, night scene sort of activities. For these sort of things, you just want to, if you're looking for a shy guy, and you can spot them pretty easily, basically you're showing all these signs that you're interested, and he's still not approaching, and you think he still likes you, and the only reason is he's shy. I mean, use some intellect here. If that's the case, then obviously what you want to do is just go up to him and maybe man up and sort of approach and start a conversation. I really like your tie. What's your name? Boom. 2 sentences, you're in. If he doesn't have a tie, choose. Watch. Hair. Eyes. Boom. And then second sentence, what's your name? Boom, you're in. Stepping aside from nightclubs, girls, what you want to do is, you don't really need a compliment. You simply just start a conversation. Expand your social circle. Go out of your way to naturally start a conversation. And sometimes, I mean, for me, I suck at it. I used to do stuff like, can I borrow your pen? I'm out of ink. And then she or he, if I'm trying to make a friend, will give me a pen, and then I just go back to writing, and I'd be like, what the heck? Wasn't he supposed to like start a conversation with me now? What the heck? What a tough world this is. Screw you. And I'd say all this in my head, and then I'd walk out of the class very, very frustrated. And it can be hard at times, but you really just got to practice and work through it and try harder. And so what I would do now would probably be, hey, I think you look pretty cool. I really like that. And then just try and be honest, okay? If you really don't like something if you can't find anything you really like about that person, you don't want to lie and say, I like that backpack of yours, because that's going to come off weird. But just say, I mean, let's say you're in class, you want to talk about regardless of the environment, you want to talk about anything that relates you and him, or you and her, to the environment, because that is why you are both at that environment. So class, you want to talk about class, and then usually transition away from academics because it's boring and a bad topic of conversation, but it's a good starter. So you want to start off like, hey, I really like that notebook. It really relates to this class we're taking. And then you transition and start talking about the class. Or if that's just still too much, you want to start immediately with class discussion, like, hey, what do you think about this teacher? Isn't he weird? And then if the girl or guy is shy, and from my experience, a lot of dudes are shy, and they will just give terse responses like yes, no. I think it's nice, and then just stop right there and stop talking. The thing is, you don't want to really do that, okay? But if you stumble across a guy or girl who's like this, and there's a lot of girls who are like this too, first you want to read their body language. Make sure they're not purposely trying to end the conversation. If they are, maybe they just don't like you, move on. It's tough. Well, like if it's really that tough, do what I did, and then just go off, cry for a little bit, and then you'll move on, okay? I never actually cried about it. I got really, really sad at times, but I never really actually cried about it. But let's say the body language is not that bad, and she's not showing like she doesn't want to, she's not trying to push you off, she's just very shy, or doesn't know how to continue a conversation. Then you just keep going, keep asking questions, and as always, make statements too. You don't want to just keep blowing him with questions, and go from there. And that's pretty much how it works. The rest should come natural. And again, there's a lot of things I can talk about for hours, and need hours of talk to really elaborate on, but here is another 20-minute video. Thank you guys if you actually watched this whole thing. It shows a lot of respect for this video, and investment, because a lot of people, I mean, they click off after the first 10 seconds. So thanks for that. And so just a few other topics that really could be talked about for quite a while is just sort of what topics to really talk about, which ones you should avoid. These are all things that I will eventually possibly make maybe 20-minute videos on if people want. Keyword if people want. And also just like things to keep the conversation going, things to say and things not to say. That's another thing. And then another thing I might be talking about in the future is just questions, what type of questions to ask and what types of statements to make. Because as always, you might find yourself in a situation where your conversation skills are just lacking. And I've had a lot of bad advice. So you always want to take my advice with a grain of salt. But one of them was just from this guy, this guy who sucked with girls. But at the time I was really bad with people in general, so I asked him for advice, and he pretty much said, always ask open-ended questions. And that's good because you're avoiding yes or no questions, which is a good thing and a good tip. But at the same time, too many open-ended questions end up becoming very, very weird. I mean, look at it this way. If I'm just constantly asking you questions, won't it get very, very weird very quickly? What does that make you feel? Why is your favorite color red? What is your hairstyle? I mean, it's so weird. And basically, the thing is, most typical conversations have statements and sentences that end with periods rather than questions. So you want to sprinkle both in. But again, this is something I want to talk about more in depth. So I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching this whole thing. And as always, like, favorite, and subscribe for free if you're not subscribed for more future videos. And leave a comment giving advice, unique, non-generic advice, if you're a girl or guy, especially if you're a girl, just about this whole thing. I would really enjoy it, and I'm hoping any other viewers will get some nuggets of truth out of it that might help them in the future. And I really think people, if you're giving comments, especially girls, if you're giving comments, make sure you keep them very insightful and unique, and make sure like you think like you're trying to help me out, because I'm still trying to improve along this journey, and quite honestly, it's still a lot of trouble for me. So I should honestly start making more videos about what I should do, and complaint videos rather than these sort of tutorial videos. But yeah, just leave your advice, make sure it's unique, so it's not like the generic stuff I've always heard, about just what you think I should do to get better. And I'll see you guys later.